What does body count mean for a woman? A few days ago, I made a post on Instagram that went semi viral. Um, it was about body count and how a man who has 50 body count and up is a successful man in the dating pool, whereas a woman who has a body count of 50 or up is damaged, low value fruit. And this post got so many comments. It literally almost overheated my phone. So I want to dive into it in a video. What did I mean by that? A man who has a body count of 50 and up is a high value man. A female that has a body count of 50 and up is damaged fruit, low value. And I said 50, but in reality, I would say even 20, even 10, even 15. Let me explain why I think this way. And I think that a lot of people think this way inherently. I think that human beings for hundreds of thousands of years have thought this way. But now with this modern society where shaming is no longer accepted, I think that now this idea, this concept is shunned on. They refuse to accept the biological reality of the human condition. But I really do think that this is a fundamental truth of dating and relationships. What I wanted to say with this is that for men, newsflash, getting laid, having sex, reproducing is hard work. I think that a lot of the females who got mad in the comment section don't realize this. They don't realize this because the kind of guy that they go after is a top tier guy. He's the guy with the 50 plus body count, which kind of proves my point, but they aren't seeing it from our perspective, so they don't understand that their own argument of, oh, it's easy for men too, proves our point. Because the men that they're referring to are not your average Joe. They're not the normal guy. They're talking about top tier guys that have tons and tons of options. The average guy has no options whatsoever. Getting sex for the average guy is extremely hard, whereas getting sex for the average female is extremely easy. This is a supply-demand proposition. And I think that a lot of people don't understand the economy of relationships. I know people are going to get upset with this video. People are going to get in their feelings because they're going to say, oh, he's comparing relationships to business, to finance. Everything that human beings engage in goes back to business and finance, supply and demand. The concept of business and finance and supply and demand is an abstraction that human beings have created. It's a pyramid scheme. It doesn't mean anything. It's just our biological imperative to look over resources and try to protect them. If a resource is in high demand, it has no value because it's everywhere. If a resource is in scarcity, it has extreme value because it's hard to get. The same thing applies to human beings. This might make me a bad person, but I am one of these people who believe that human beings do not inherently have any value whatsoever. The value that you have, it depends on what you bring back to society. If you don't provide any value, you have no value. You're valueless. I'm sorry. That's just the harsh reality of life. Everybody wants to live in this fantasy world where we're all equals, right? The man who has a body count of 50 and all the women want him is the same as the female who has a body count of 50 that just gives it away. They're not the same. We're not the same. We're not all equal. We don't all have the same value. That's a lie. It sounds nice on paper. It sounds very kumbaya-ish. But the truth is that if you're not providing value in some way, you have no value. A lot of the women in the comments on that post were saying, oh, the guy who has 50 plus is disgusting. But I guarantee you, if you met the guy with 50 plus, you would probably get cracked. There's a reason why he has 50 plus. They were like, oh, no female, no girl wants that guy. If no female wanted the guy, he wouldn't have a body count of 50, 100, 1,000. The fact that he has a body count that high means that he's in high demand. Females want him. The opposite is true with a female that has high body count. A female could be 300 pounds, and there's still going to be some guy who's going to want to crack. Because, like I said, for men, getting sex is hard. The average guy, that guy that you see at the Dollar Tree checkout, packing bags, that guy that you see at McDonald's, that guy that you see doing some remedial job, that guy has no game. Do you think he has girls lined up for him? The average schmuck, the average normal dude who doesn't have money, who doesn't have any good looks, who doesn't have anything at all. He has nothing going for him. He's just an average dude. Do you think he has girls lined up for him? The average dude who's not tall. There's a fatal, the females don't even understand, there's a fatal combination for men. The short, minority, unattractive guy who doesn't have money, he's cooked. He's not getting any girls. There's a reason why the institution of marriage was established. It was so that every guy could get a girl. Because if we lived in a society where you could have multiple wives, then those guys would never get girls. They would never get married. They would never have a family. They would never reproduce because there's not enough girls to go around. They have nothing to offer. When a female gets upset and says, oh, this is a disgusting concept because men and women are equal and that guy is disgusting and I can have 100 body count. That's fine. They don't understand the economy of relationships because the truth is that the female, since sex is easy for females and they're giving it up to every single guy, it shows a lack of judgment skills. Think about it. It shows a lack of judgment skills. You have a resource that is in high demand, that for you is easy to obtain. You got it easy, you can give it away easy. But instead of you really thinking about your resource and holding it dear and giving it to a person who's actually earned it, because a lot of the times that chop guy who's broke, who works at the McDonald's and has no money and he's short, he's actually a pretty good dude. But instead of you giving that resource that you have that's in low demand to that guy, you're going to pick the guy who's driving around in a Lamborghini, making $300,000 a year, $1 million a year with celebrity status and 50 other girls chasing behind him. And then when that guy fucks you over, you're going to cry about it. Oh my God, I can't believe he betrayed me. Of course he's going to betray you. Don't kid yourself. So it shows a lack of judgment skill. And then these people who gave up the resource easily, they're the same people who are going to complain and say, all men are bad. What they really mean when they say all men are bad is all guys that are out of my league are bad. Because that's the truth. The truth is that most of these women with a high body count, the reason they have such a high body count is because they constantly went after guys that were out of their league. If you get a guy in your league, he's going to stick around. If you get a guy outside of your legal league, outside of your legal league, outside of your league, there's a high chance he's going to dip. Because he has all of the opportunity in the world to dip. If a guy is a musician, if the guy is a famous rapper, an actor, and he has hundreds of millions of fans, and you're just some random girl who is semi-attractive, who happens to somehow get the attention of this guy, what do you think the odds are of that guy leaving and going after other girls when he has many other opportunities? It's extremely high. And that's on you because you showed a lack of judgment. Your judgment skills are off. The same thing with the girl who says, oh, I don't do that. I'm not going after celebrities. But she goes after the guy who's a gangster, who has social clout. You're still demonstrating that your judgment skills are off. A female should have a low body count because the guy she picks should be the ideal guy for her. And the fact that you've gone over 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 other dudes and none of them fit the mold means that you have a very poor judgment of character. You're not able to find the person who matches you. Or you're delusional. I think that the high body count, it shows a lack of stability mentally and emotionally, And the problem is that the errors, the mistakes snowball. This is why if you have a daughter, you need to make sure that they can see the world from the proper perspective so they don't make these mistakes. Because the problem is that each mistake adds another scar. And at some point, these females just become completely covered in scars. They start off with one guy they picked who was a bad guy, right? They picked the bad guy, the cool kid, the rebel, the guy who's popular in school, the quarterback. And then that quarterback had 20 other girls that wanted to be with him. She picks him. He screws her over. She got her first scar. She got her first scar. But instead of her analyzing the situation and saying, okay, let me not go for that kind of guy again, they double down and they get the exact same kind of guy again. Even worse. Forget about the high school quarterback. Now they're going after the college influencer. And the same thing happens again. So then now they're scarred again. Their ego is hurt. They're like, oh, I got to go find another guy who's even bigger. So then they go find the business entrepreneur. And they get hurt again. And they just go through this cycle. Instead of them focusing on themselves, I always say it, just like how a young man, if you want to be the guy who's sought after by girls, you need to focus on yourself, get your bag up, get your fucking personality up, go on some adventures, get a fucking hero story. The same thing applies to females. You know, we live in a society that's tricked them, unfortunately, told them looks matter. All that matters is how you look. But the truth is that how you look really doesn't matter at all. Being attractive, being pretty, that makes you a dime a dozen. I hate to say it. That's not an alluring characteristic in a human being, being attractive. What does that even mean? It's completely subjective. And not only is it completely subjective, even the person who's the stereotypical image of beauty, the industry standard, that person, they turn 18, they turn 19, they turn 25, they turn 30, they're 40, they're done. And in that whole process of them aging, there was about 1 million other people that fit that same standard that were legal. It means nothing at all. You're a dime a dozen. You're not special. Being attractive does not make you special. You become a low value person that has a bunch of baggage. That's the problem. A female with a high body count has a bunch of baggage and she's made herself low value. And you can see it. You know, this is not a made up concept. I know everybody wants to gaslight men and say, oh, your standards are bad. You're a misogynist. But the truth is, you can see it. Go anywhere in the world and get 2 girls and say, this girl has a body count of 5. This girl has a body count of 300. Which one are they picking? Especially if it's a guy with any type of standards or morals or boundaries, he's going to pick the girl with the low body count. Now, if the guy is desperate, he might pick the girl with the high body count because he thinks that she's easier. You know, that's the other thing that females don't understand. When you have the high body count, the reason guys are gravitating towards you is not because they find you genuinely attractive or appealing. It's because they think you're easy. If females walked around the world with their body count on their forehead, I guarantee you the women who had high body counts, they're not going to get wifed up, but they're definitely going to get more people lined up to fuck. Because by definition, people think, oh, this girl's easy. She's going to give it up easy. I don't want to put the effort in, the work in to try and get her. But I already know she gave it up 1,000 other times. So if she gave it up to all those other guys, she's going to give it up to me too. And they don't care about the baggage because they're not going to stick with you. That's the whole point. Your goal as a female should be trying to get married, trying to have a family. But it's not going to happen for you. Don't delude yourself. You see all these quote unquote female influencers that are actually just groupies, you know, the ones that hang out with rappers and they're in all the music videos. Those females, they constantly go on the internet and they complain, oh, I haven't found Mr. Perfect yet. Oh, I haven't got a kid yet. I'm not married yet. I don't have a family. You're never going to have a family. I hate to break it to you. And for you, in order for you to have a family, you're going to have to go way, way below your social status now and pick a guy you're going to have to pick the McDonald's worker. Even if you're above that point, even if you've managed to make millions of dollars off of simps and you're at a point in life where you're driving around in supercars and you're that bad bitch, you're still going to have to settle for the guy who works at McDonald's because no guy who's successful, who has standards, is going to pick you. You might get lucky. You might find a Akash Singh. You might find the Kai Sanat of the world. But most of the time, you're not going to find that man. You're going to have to go find a guy who's way below you. That's just the truth. It's the truth that nobody wants to hear. And part of the reason why that post I made had so many negative comments is because the females who already fucked up their life, who are already done, they want to reset the game. So they don't need guys like me, guys like Andrew Tate, even though Andrew Tate, you know, he says a lot of other bullshit that's wrong, but in this one thing, he is kind of right. They don't want guys like that spreading this message, which honestly, it doesn't even need spreading. The thing that's ironic, you know, these females don't understand that this message doesn't need spreading. This is the normal biological message that you're born with. As a man, any man who's a human being, you intuitively know that you don't want the female who's super easy. The female who's super easy will get you killed. That's the truth. You know, that's what another thing people don't understand. There's it's not just because, oh, I think I'm better than this female because she's giving it up to other guys. So I don't want to be. There's an actual biological reason for this. There's a reason why. There's a reason why genetically human beings are pre-programmed to want to go for the girl who's not easy. It goes down to so many different things. The first thing is knowing that your descendants are being passed on, right? If you're a guy, you sleep with a girl in ancient times before there were DNA tests, you need to know that the kids that you're spending resources on, right? The kids that you're feeding and taking care of and protecting are yours. If you go get some girl who is giving it up to the whole tribe, you don't know whose kids those are. What man wants to raise somebody else's kids? No man wants to do that. That's the first thing. The second thing is the female who's easy and gives it up and is tempting other guys is going to get you killed because you're going to be with her and some other guy is going to lust after her and she's going to give it up to him secretly. And then now this guy is going to be like, well, I already hit this secretly and I hit it and a bunch of other guys hit it. But this guy's with her officially. We got to get rid of this guy. I want his girl. Or you're just going to get pissed and you're going to get into a fight with that guy. Like, yo, what are you doing talking to my girl? And it's going to unravel and there's going to be chaos. But the thing is that in ancient times, when there were tribes, when people lived in small communities, there were no women giving it up to everyone because those women were shunned and embarrassed and driven from the village. For this same reason, because a female who's giving it up easy to everyone, it causes chaos in the village. It causes chaos in the village. Society cannot function this way. There's a reason why naturally human beings gravitated towards monogamy. And even though human beings are not monogamous, they gravitated towards it with laws. The reason why we've created the whole structure around our society is in order to protect the society, because without those laws, pulling in the raw human nature of every individual, if every person just acted as an individual with no rules, no laws, then society would collapse. There would be utter chaos. It would be utter chaos. I've said it a bunch of times, and I need to make a video about this as well. Human beings, we're animals, right? We are animals. I don't believe in any type of divinity. I don't believe in any kind of God. I don't believe any of that bullshit. We are animals, but we're animals that reject nature. So we create laws and rules and institutions in order to isolate ourselves from the chaos and destruction of the natural world. So human beings decided a long time ago, it's better for a man to be with one woman and them to be bound in a legal contract that protects both of them. And also allows the pool of females to be available to the majority of men versus one guy having a bunch of women or one woman just giving it up to everybody in the village. And for you to think, oh, these people like Andrew Tate, like this Scott Leonard guy I'm listening to right now, like Sneeko, like all these red pill dudes, all of these guys who believe all this stuff are misogynist and they're spreading a bad message. It's like, we're not spreading a bad message. The message is already there. It's been there since the beginning of fucking time. Just like all other animals. What you're doing is a social experiment. You're literally creating a social experiment, a situation that's unnatural. We're going to take away shaming. We're going to take away bullying. We're going to take away ostracization. We're going to take away the very boundaries, the very institutions that have been established for thousands of years to protect society. And we're going to live in a society where there's no genders, there's no rules, there's no sexual confinement, there's no chastity, there's no dignity, there's no boundaries, there's nothing. It's just every human being is just an individual who's consuming so that some other person behind the scenes can get rich and powerful. That's the part they don't tell you. That's the part you don't realize. You think that you're sticking up for your individual rights. Oh, I feel more empowered because I can sleep with anyone I want. But what you're really doing is you're letting that guy who's actually in charge have access to all the women. You've been tricked again. Again. Anyways, this video is getting long in the tooth. Subscribe if you agree with this message. Subscribe if you don't agree with this message. Let me know what you think in the comments. I stream. Check out my streams. I stream in the afternoon, 6:30 p.m. I don't know what days I stream. I try to stream as many days as possible, so check it out. I'm out. Enjoy the video. Peace.